9 hours ago, a Chinese fighter pilot thought he owned the sky. He was wrong. And by the time he figured that out, it was already too late. Early 2026. The South China Sea. Below, blue water stretches in every direction, contested, claimed, argued over in international courts and military briefings and diplomatic cables that nobody reads carefully. Enough. Above it, cruising at 30,000 feet through air that belongs to no single nation, a U.S. Air Force B-52H Stratofortress is doing exactly what it was sent here to do. Flying straight, flying slow, flying exactly where it has every legal right to fly. This is a freedom of navigation patrol. The United States runs these regularly, not because it needs to go anywhere specific, not because the route is strategically critical on any given Tuesday, but because the act of flying through international airspace is itself the message. These waters are international. This sky is international. The moment you stop asserting that, it stops being true. China has a different interpretation. China has a different interpretation of a lot of things. The B-52 is not a young aircraft. It first lifted off a runway in 1952, which means it has been in continuous service longer than most of the countries currently disputing the boundaries below it. It is enormous. A wingspan wider than most city streets. A fuselage that carries more payload than some entire air forces can deliver in a single day. It is slow by modern standards. On radar, it does not so much appear as announce itself, a massive, unmistakable return that looks less like an aircraft and more like a geographic feature that learned to move. It carries no pretense of stealth. It was never designed for invisibility. It has other arrangements for that. From a military installation on Hainan Island, a People's Liberation Army Air Force J-16 receives its scramble order and begins climbing toward intercept altitude. The pilot assigned to this mission is a senior captain. He is not inexperienced. He has logged serious hours in the J-16. He has intercepted American aircraft before, maritime patrol planes, reconnaissance assets, strategic bombers making exactly these kinds of statements. Every single time, the outcome has been the same. The Americans fly straight, say very little, and eventually go home. They absorb the intercept with a professional calm that reads, to someone looking for weakness, like an absence of will. He has decided this means they are afraid. He has confused discipline for weakness. He has watched trained professional restraint and read it as an inability to respond. He has built his entire mental model of American air power around the idea that they will not push back, because they cannot, because they are fundamentally unwilling. He has decided that the Americans who fly these patrols are cautious, perhaps timid, certainly defeatable. That model is about to encounter something it was not built to handle. The J-16 is China's premier multi-role fighter, and China is genuinely proud of it. Twin engines. ASA fire control radar capable of tracking multiple targets simultaneously. PL-15 beyond visual range missiles with range figures that made Western analysts uncomfortable when the specifications first emerged. It traces its ancestry to the Russian Sukhoi Su-30 platform, modified and adapted to the point where the lineage is real, but the aircraft is its own thing. It is capable. In most engagements against most opponents, it is a serious threat. The senior captain reaches intercept altitude and begins his radar scan. He finds the B-52 immediately. The return is enormous. No searching required, no careful analysis of the picture. The bomber sits on his scope like someone painted a bright circle on the sky and labeled it straight and level. No jamming signature. No escort contacts anywhere in his scan range. His ground controller back at Hainan confirms. One contact, slow moving, no support assets within radar coverage. One contact, alone. He pushes his throttle forward. The first pass is close. He barrel rolls directly over the bomber's fuselage, 30 feet of clearance, inverted, the J-16's belly above the B-52's spine. The crew below feels the turbulence shudder through their airframe. Inside the cockpit, the aircraft commander keys his radio, notes the intercept, gives his position, describes the contact. His voice carries the same effect a man uses to report that his coffee order is ready. Then he goes back to flying. The Chinese pilot found this deeply confusing. He expected something: a radio call, a defensive maneuver, some signal that the provocation had registered. He got a filed report and a crew that returned to their normal scan routine. He sets up for a second pass. This time, he closes to 20 feet. Inverted, belly down, right above the bomber's spine. Jet wash violent enough to flicker warning indicators in the B-52 cockpit. The co-pilot adjusts his grip on the controls. Nobody raises their voice. Nobody does anything that suggests this moment is anything other than routine. He radios Hainan. Ground control confirms. One slow contact, no escort, nothing else in the picture. The senior captain is operating alone against an unprotected target. He is completely, totally, absolutely certain of this. Now, here is what was actually true. 43,000 feet above the South China Sea, 13,000 feet above the B-52, well above the altitude band where the J-16 was operating, above the coverage ceiling of the radar. Installation on Hainan feeding the senior captain his situational picture, an F-22 Raptor had been present in this airspace since before the Chinese pilot finished his pre-flight checks. It was there during the briefing. It was there during the scramble. It was there for every pass, every radio call, every moment the senior captain felt like the most dangerous thing in this piece of sky. And it had appeared on no sensor China operated in the region. Not once. Not for a fraction of a second. The F-22 Raptor is a fifth-generation stealth aircraft. Its radar cross-section is managed to a degree that makes comparison with conventional fighters almost meaningless. Against the J-16's ASA radar, against the ground installations on Hainan, against every sensor asset China had operating over the South China Sea that morning, the F-22 produced exactly one thing: nothing. A clean, consistent, total nothing. The Raptor pilot had been sitting at 43,000 feet with the patience of someone who already knows how the story ends. He had watched every pass. He had given the senior captain the space to build total confidence, pass by pass, radio call by radio call, until the Chinese pilot was operating with the certainty of a man who has checked every corner of the room and found himself completely alone. That window just closed. No afterburners, no radar emissions, no warning of any kind. The F-22 pushed its nose forward and descended from 43,000 feet in a controlled dive, gravity and geometry, nothing else required. It leveled off 500 meters directly behind the J-16. Dead 6 o'clock. Weapons quality geometry. The firing solution was so clean, it was almost academic. The Chinese pilot was configuring for another pass on the bomber. His threat receivers were quiet. His radar showed one contact, the B-52, ahead and below, slow and steady as it had been for the last 20 minutes. Nothing had changed. He was alone, the Americans were unprotected, and this was going well. The F-22 pilot activated his fire control radar. What happened inside the J-16 cockpit happened in under 1 second. Every threat warning system the aircraft carried triggered simultaneously. Audio tones, visual alerts, every format the aircraft's designers had built to ensure a pilot understood the severity of his situation all at once. Rear aspect radar lock. Weapons quality. Inside minimum engagement range. The senior captain's head snapped around. He looked left. He looked right. He craned backward against his harness. There, 500 meters behind him, an F-22 Raptor, sitting in his 6 o'clock with the quiet authority of something that had been there long enough to choose its moment. Not a symbol on a display screen. An actual aircraft, visible through his canopy, close enough to see the shape of the pilot's helmet. Close enough to identify the weapon stations. Close enough that the geometry of the situation required no interpretation and admitted no favorable reading. In any version of this conversation involving live weapons, it was already over. The senior captain ran. Full afterburner on both engines. Hard brake left, trading energy for angle, trying to create distance and geometry simultaneously. His thumb found the chaff dispensers. His other hand hit the flares. Everything his aircraft carried for self-protection went out in a single sustained burst. Aluminum ribbon clouds and burning magnesium blooming across 30,000 feet of sky. The J-16 shed its entire defensive loadout in seconds because the threat receiver said minimum range, and minimum range means you do whatever the aircraft gives you and you pray. It is enough. The F-22 did not give chase. It watched. When the J-16 leveled off 2 miles away, engines screaming, pilot breathing in the way pilots breathe when adrenaline has made the decision for them, the Raptor crossed the distance without urgency and pulled into formation alongside him. Same altitude, same airspeed, smooth, quiet. The senior captain looked left. The American pilot looked back at him through 2 canopies and a few meters of open air. Then he lifted his hand and tapped the side of his helmet twice. Slowly, deliberately. Every pass was on film. Every aggressive approach. Every confident radio transmission back to Hainan reporting that the Americans were alone and unprotected. Recorded, time-stamped, documented in a format that required no interpretation and could not be contested. The senior captain had no chaff remaining, no flares, no countermeasures of any kind. He had burned his entire defensive loadout running from an aircraft that was never going to fire. The F-22 held formation. 10 seconds. 15. Then a single wing waggle, and the Raptor pulled up and accelerated, and disappeared. Not a gradual fade. One moment the aircraft was present, real, visible, impossible to mistake. The next moment, the sky where it had been was simply sky. Empty. Blue. Quiet. The J-16's radar showed nothing. The threat receiver was silent. The senior captain was alone again, exactly the way he thought he had been alone the whole time. He turned his aircraft toward home. He did not make another pass at the B-52. He did not speak on the radio for 11 minutes. He landed. He climbed down from his cockpit. He walked into the debrief room and sat across from his commanding officer. His commanding officer read the report once, then read it again, then picked up the phone. That call did not go well. Somewhere above the South China Sea, the B-52 continued its patrol. Straight, level, unhurried. The crew had filed their intercept report and returned to their scan duties. Nothing remarkable had occurred from their perspective, because, from their perspective, nothing had.